Welcome to the Gigs Podcast. I'm your host, Nikki Sanz, founder and CEO of Gigs, the professional career platform for the live event industry. On this podcast, we are interviewing the very best in the live event and touring industry to hear the good, the bad, the ugly, and the unreal moments of life gigging and life spent on the road. Today, I am beyond excited to have Mark Oglesby, a veteran tour manager who has worked with some of the biggest names in music. From OneRepublic to Post Malone, Mark's career has taken him across the globe, managing tours and making unforgettable memories. Mark Oglesby, welcome to the Gigs Podcast.
Thanks.
Well, I want to go right into it.
Okay.
You went from OneRepublic to Pink to Lady A, thinking you were probably just going to start winding down, maybe retiring, just getting more family time. And then just a couple months ago, you took on one of the largest tours in the world right now, Post Malone. Why did you make this decision?
You can imagine this was my phone blew up when I had made that decision because yes, I'm married tomorrow. In fact, I celebrate 20 years of marriage, and
congrats.
Thank you. I have an 8-year-old, and I help coach his sports. And so my wife and I had spent the last couple of years after the shutdown in the headspace of what does the next chapter of life look like. And I am first and foremost a husband and a father beyond anything. And so for me, in prioritizing my time, I have found that I'm best when my son and wife feel loved and I'm giving them attention. And I will say, I'm the needy one of the three. Like I need them. So I thought that Lady A was going to be my swan song. We were going to sail off into whatever the next chapter of my, I think the two common sectors that us roadies go into is real estate or food and beverage. So I figured at some point I would go into that.
Yeah.
And then my dear friend, Angie Warner, out of the blue called with this harebrained idea of tour managing. She had decided to transition into a different role herself, and so said, "Hey, would you? I'd like to tap you for this." When you get that phone call like that, like you said, yes, Post is that's full bandwidth, and I know that. But more importantly, Angie's a dear close friend of mine, and so because of that, I already had a real good sense of what the camp was about, and she knows where I, as a man, what my priorities are, and so she knew in her wisdom beforehand that this would make sense. She knows, again, like my family comes first, and we oftentimes say that, but it doesn't really pan out, and so, yeah. So after some long, hard thoughts, funny enough, I had already, because Lady A was meant to be slow this year, I had already committed to the No Doubt reunion.
Oh my gosh.
At Coachella. And so that was the one caveat, was like, we're going to go from, pretty casual weekdays to full on work mode for a minute there. And I do feel like this week, after we've got out of Bonnaroo now and closed up the No Doubt stuff, that like I'm focused, fully on Post. It's fantastic because it's a really good camp, really good organization. And there were so many boxes. It ticked all the boxes. I mean, at the end of the day, like we're firefighters, right? Like, and so you can't cry that it's too hot or there's too much smoke because this is the gig. Wow. And so for me, I know what the workload entails, and it's more about the camp and the vibe and the ethos and the culture, and it just needs to work for both parties. And so Post, fortunately, with who he is and the man he is and the company he runs and that the management, it's a good simpatico. Like it really is a good camp for all of us, I believe.
Well, you went from, and we're going to get into it, but you went from regular touring then into a weekend warrior, like country touring. So you're back into regular touring.
Yes.
How is that for family life?
So I went, during the shutdown, going into the shutdown, we just embarked on World Tour with OneRepublic, finished full gamut of rehearsals. We were in Europe. Shutdown happens, come back, we all experienced that. And Ryan calls to start the tour back up. And of course I'm like, let's go. And I got out there and got a phone call for Kane Brown and was like, oh man, I'm not. So I talked to Ryan about it, and he's like, I'm going hard, And so at that point, I thought, man, this might be a good time for me to switch lanes. And so
this was in 2021. Okay.
So we switched. So I left OneRepublic after Ryan and I had been there almost 20 years, and went to Kane And I joke because that was also, as you remember, like the shutdown coming out of that. That was not only were we doing the normal gig life, but this whole other element of COVID. And so that was a lot of work. And it was awesome. And it was really great to be able to, I feel like, be a pioneer in going back into the touring world. And I teased our camp a lot because management, when they said, hey, we're a weekend warrior, I like to joke and say that, the root of warrior is war. And they really emphasize the weekend part and they leave out the war part because the weekend warrior thing is not for the faint of heart because as a touring person, I am accustomed to being gone for 10 months, 16 months, just you're gone. And you can deal with, your wife can make the plans. Yeah. We'll fly out in and out and see you. With the weekend warrior thing, especially for anyone in a managerial position, you get home Sunday night or Monday and you are torched. So you sleep that whole day. Your family's doesn't see you. And then Monday or Tuesday, you're going to the bank, you're doing the
laundry, you're doing all the things.
Yes. Yeah. You're sending your road reports in, you're doing your advances. And next thing you know, it's Wednesday and you've got bus call and your family's like, I thought we were going to see you, and it's not like the weekend warrior thing is not it's not summer camp. It is not vacation, at least for my experience. It's a lot of work in its own right. And especially for the back of house managers and the assistants and the PA, they're the ones really, it's unbelievable the amount of work that they do in such a short period of time.
Well, and the families, your families are getting you tired.
100%.
Because if you're just out, you get a full day to rot in your hotel room or 2 days or 3 days or explore cities and actually just rejuvenate. But if you're rejuvenating in Nashville, you're not your best self.
100%.
Wow, that's tough. Damn.
Yeah. So now that I have that perspective, it helped me make the decision when you get a phone call like Post Malone, because now I know okay, I know what's on both sides of the equation. And I also know for where we're at in my family and what it is we want to accomplish, this works,
Wow. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Can we talk about size and scope of this tour and what you're about to get into this year?
Sure.
Is this a world tour? Is this a country tour? What are we about to see?
So yeah, I can't obviously go into graphic detail for in regards to his business, but yeah, we did announce the tour today, in fact.
Wow.
And so currently speaking, this particular leg is a North American tour. So
great.
Yeah.
What size venues?
Sheds. There's a couple potential stadiums in there. There's not really. I don't think there's many closed. I think it's mainly outdoors. Some soccer stadiums.
Okay.
It's a kind of a mixture of both, but sheds and stadiums.
And you're used to, you've done the biggest of the big. You've done stadium tours, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what do you prefer venue? If you could get your most perfect tour venue wise, what would you pick?
I will say, especially at my age, which we'll go into, because like any runner, I talk about the fact that I run, but I love running. I love exercise. I love being outside. So for me, the stadiums I absolutely love.
Wow.
It's because it's a big animal and it is so much work. And I'm not about to sit up here as a tour manager and say, I'm the one working hard, because the folks that are chalking and stocking and, hanging metal, those are the people that are up. They probably would have a different opinion on this, especially when you get into the elements of the weather and some of the tertiary markets with the less than ideal, backstage situations. But to set it up, and have 45, 55, 65,000 people coming in and seeing it go off without a hitch and everyone's safe and everyone has a good night. That to me is it's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah. And you get 40,000 steps a day.
At
least.
Yeah.
So you're not a guy that is on a scooter or a golf cart. You're running. You're walking
literally
around.
running. Yes. In fact, at Coachella, when No Doubt came to showtime, we were scrambling and there was an issue backstage with production row. And so I got out and just ran, and I ran from in front of the van, and it was not thanking. And I got done and they were teasing me afterward. You're just showing off. And I was like, it didn't click to me that that's not normal. Cause yes, we
got to talk about the shoes. Can we get this on camera? Can we show their shoes?
These are my go-tos for sure.
What are they? You have 5 pairs of these.
Yeah. Nike something, but they've got the carbon plate in there, which you don't want to make, or I don't think you want to make a habit of wearing those on the reg, but for walking, and 40, 60, 80,000 steps a day. They're Gore-Tex. They've got the nubs on the soles. I mean, I genuinely do have 5 pair. Like these are unbeatable. Unbeatable.
Good tip.
Yes.
Good tip.
Yes.
That's huge. So you're a huge runner.
Yep.
Do you make time to run in every city that you go
yes.
to? I want to hear about that.
It's a priority to me. So I will sacrifice sleep over running any day and all day.
Wow.
Because I've always been active my whole life. I am a curmudgeon when I don't have that box ticked. I have to get up and exercise. And, capitalistic society, when you go up the food chain and to the executive in the C-suite, it's not uncommon that the physical work is diminished when you have a white collar or a manager at the end of your name. And so I'm not going to say that I didn't take advantage of that at some point in my career. I most certainly did. But I'm at the point in life, especially after the shutdown, where I genuinely am so thankful for every opportunity I have. I've lost a parent. I've had friends die. Like, I've lived enough life that I realize, like, oh my God, this is what I get to do for a living. So like, I'm not going to miss that. And I will, I'll look any crew guy in the face and challenge him. Like, I'll go hard in the paint too, dog. I'll get up and run 15 miles and I'll see you at load in. Like, I love it. Again, I'm not going to say that I outwork. There's no way to outwork a set carp or a production manager, but I'll do my best to at least try to hang with them.
That's so amazing to hear. And what amazing leadership. I want to go to some part of your life that hit you. You kind of mentioned it a little bit before, and maybe you're feeling it all the time, but do you remember your first feeling of, oh my God, I get to live this life?
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, like I'm 45. I started doing this when I was 20, 21. And I mean, very quickly, I remember my mom, like, she was very devastated that I chose to do this for a living. Like, and my dad was like, literally, he said his words were like, I broke my body so that you didn't have to. Like, why are you farting around in a bar with a band? Like, this is, and I get it. I'm a dad. Like, and so kind of that first time when my parents wanted to come to a show and like, when they could see like, oh, my son's like, like people are respecting him. He's like leading people. He's making money. Like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. So for starters, and I have a photo of one of those moments with my mom, like yes, but then on the contrary, I mean, my dad laid tile for a living. My 3 of 4 of my grandparents were active military vets. Like, this is a joke of a life. Like that, totally. I get to go help people achieve their dreams and put on concerts, and then help the public check out of their life, even for a day. I know what music is to me. I mean, music means everything to me. So I know as a fan what it's like when, when Eddie Vedder gets on stage and does his thing. That to me, he speaks to me. And so to play a role in someone else's ability to have that, it is invaluable to me. It starts with gratitude. Like, I'm so freaking grateful.
Okay. So then did you always know, you said you started at 21. Did you always know that was what you wanted to do? What brought you into this world?
Yes. I mean, I would say, especially if you ask any adult in my life when I was a child, that they definitely knew I would be doing something in either entertainment or sports. I mean, I've just always been very active, and I suffer from the lack of not able to talk to every freaking random stranger on the street. Like, that's just, I don't know that I'm like a dog, like I'm a golden retriever. Like it's not within me to understand, like, you don't need to go talk to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I've always loved music. It helped me through, I'm like everybody. There were times that I attached certain songs to for my own soundtrack. And like in 2009, OneRepublic, we supported U2 on a couple different tours, and Ryan produced a few of their albums. So we were close with them. And so 2009, we were in Vienna, Austria, and the boys and I show up to load in, and Jake Berry, world famous production manager's there, and he meets us, and he's like, "So where's your crew?" I was like, "It's the band and me." And he's like, "What do you mean? You have no crew?" I was like, "This is us, dog." And so he's like, "All right." And so we load in. It's Ernst Happel Stadium there, 86,000 people. We do our little set at 4 p.m. that no one cares about because they're to see the Irish. And we go to front of house where all the VIPs can go. And I remember Ryan and the boys and I were standing there, and it's like, we all kind of started crying because it was like, what are we doing here? Like, this is, and that was a moment, and where, yeah, like it just hit me like, this is not normal. Like, wow. This is not normal. This is not how anyone. No, I as a child, I had dreams of being around musicians and around music, but certainly didn't think I'd be in, the country that my grandfather was shooting people 70 years earlier, putting on concerts with my favorite band of all time. Like, wow. Very, very thankful. I'm freaking thankful.
And what got you to get with those guys, with OneRepublic in the first place?
The very first act the first signed proper act I was with was at the time a band called the Clark Family Experience.
Okay. Yeah.
They were on Curb Records, 6 brothers. And, I was 21 and I was older than 4 or 6 of them. Oh my God. So the youngest was 15. And so it's the 6 boys and myself in a tour bus that the label's paying for. We were looking back. Oh my God. It's unbelievable. And all we did, we were good kids. All we did was play, Nintendo 64 at the time, yes. GoldenEye. But yeah, so being with those boys, I got a house at the time, and was subrenting. I had my master bedroom had 2 queen beds and 2 sets of bunk beds. And I had like 12 guys living in my house, paying me rent. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And, some of the boys the Clarks were with me, and, they said, hey, our cousin's going to come to town for the summer to work for James Stroud and Scott Burchett at DreamWorks. Can you crash here? I'm like, dude, there's already freaking 10 people, whatever. And it was Ryan Tedder. And so he moved in for a bit and stayed with us. And he would sing Apologize on the guitar. And it was like, we're all kids. And this dude's singing this like heavy song. And
wow.
Yeah. So you just fast forward. I went out and did some other tours. And when the time came a few years later for him to actually pursue, he was successful in his own right, scoring movies and doing soundtracks. But when he put the band together, he called me. And at the time, on paper, it would be stepping back because they were just kind of a one-hit wonder, potentially.
Was it Apologize?
It was the precipice of Apologize.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
It was that summer before it launched.
I remember watching this on VH1.
Oh, yeah.
And MTV. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was before Apologize.
Yep.
And so I was with a band called Emerson Drive, and we were.
Yeah.
I was their day-to-day manager. They had a #1 with Moments, and they were Grammy nominated at the time against the Eagles.
Oh.
And so like leaving that to go to my friend's band, they're like, you're an idiot.
Your roommate.
Yeah. But I love him and I love the boy. And so, yeah. Thankfully it was obviously like that changed my life.
How did you know that was the right decision?
Well, I'll tell you what's weird. They did So You Think You Can Dance.
Oh yeah.
And
I remember that.
Dude, I was in the living room and I look at my wife and I was like, man, if I was ever going to tour again, like Ryan or the Clarks would be like who I'd want to tour with. Cause like we grew up together, it's like this is my friends. And that dude called me like a week later. Like, so it was, yeah, I just knew
God's listening.
It was wild.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you start with them, you open for U2, and then that leads to how many years were you with them?
Well, so I started with them in 2007 and then finished in 2021. Wow. Yeah.
Lived some life with them.
Oh yeah. I officiated Eddie's wedding. I officiated Brent's wedding. We're still I sent them a video yesterday. They're my brothers.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was important to me when I left that I left, cause
yes.
It was out of the blue to a degree. Like,
how quickly did you start getting, if it was just you and them, you maybe in a van and then a bus?
It was, yep.
Can you talk about growing that camp and how you did that and what you really wanted as a leader, like for that camp to be all about?
Yes. Yeah. I view them as my formative school years of the touring world because Apologize at the time was the biggest song on the planet.
Yes.
And they broke on MySpace, if you can remember MySpace. And so it was a lot of fun just being the shepherd for these boys. And they were with a management company at the time that very large management company that folded due to like some legal stuff. And so it was genuinely the 6 dudes and me for quite a while, and their attorney. And so once we teamed up with a management company, the manager was like, hey, I'm cool just flying at 40,000 feet if you want to be the one on the ground. So it was really them and a day-to-day. And we slowly but surely were very selective about the type of individual that we hired.
What's the first hire for you?
For OneRepublic?
Mm-hmm.
We had a production dude named Spencer.
Production dude.
Yeah.
That's a cool job title.
Yeah. Because like we weren't even. We were like the first of 3, or the 3 p.m. slot on a festival. They have one song that people didn't even identify being with them. They thought it was Timbaland. So,
what a fun era of music. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the next. And then is that when you start getting a production manager, then front of house, then lighting?
Yeah. So, funny enough, our first production manager was Brett, who runs Center Staging.
Oh, yeah.
So he had come off from Garth. He'd been with Garth forever. And I remember he and I shared a room at the Hudson Hotel in New York, which is, those rooms are Cracker Jack boxes. And I laugh now because, I was 25 years old. And he's a grown man. And he's like, I'm going to tell you right now, I haven't shared a room in 15 years. And, this is probably the last time I do this. So that's why because we had got him from Center Staging. But anyway, tangent.
So you're doing all these hires, getting people, building this team. What is something, I'm assuming you've had to fire people.
I would like to better answer that question.
Yep.
For real.
Yep.
So I started off as a teenager working in a mall doing retail. And I very quickly worked an assistant manager role. So my senior year, I'm working 40 hours a week being an assistant manager. And they hired me to be a manager of a store called The Buckle in Johnson City, Tennessee. So at 19 years old, I get offered my own store to move 1,100 miles away from home. And I'm 19 years old and I'm hiring and firing people and running $1 million budgets for a retail company.
Oh my gosh.
And so I learned very quickly at a corporate level on how to conduct myself because there's HR departments, there are legalities involved, there's IRS. And so I learned very quickly how to run a business, an actual legitimate business. And that is where I honed my skills in leadership from a fundamental level. And then coloring that in with color, I'm a huge bro when it comes to sports and student of the military minds. And so I really do research continually leaders and coaches and teachers and military minds because I want to be the best servant I can. And I view leadership as a servant. So to answer your question on what I look for when I'm hiring people, I look for people that are better at what they do than I am because I know that there are very few things I'm good at, very, very, very few things. And the majority of things I am not good at. And so I need someone that's way better at that than me because otherwise it's pointless. Like I don't need to replicate what I am. I need people that make up for my deficiencies. Yeah. And so oftentimes the production managers that I work best with, we couldn't be more opposite. Like could not be more opposite. And that's how my wife and I are. And so when I'm hiring people, whether it's a backline tech or a lighting designer or whatever it is, it's irrelevant to me on what I know about that gig. That's why I'm hiring them. That's not what I do. So I'm looking for somebody that's the best at what they do. And then within that, ideally, hard worker, honest, the general code of ethics. And again, like I want people that aren't like me. I don't want to look around and see the same faces and the same backgrounds. I want the diverse people because then it gives us as a team a better platform to be able to understand certain situations because we might have someone in that camp that's been there or done that,
Totally.
So when building a team, I'm looking for like puzzle pieces that aren't already on the puzzle.
I feel like you could see a lot of times camps like all just kind of, they're hired to all be kind of alike so that they can all be buddies and best friends when, is that not the best way to build a team is not shared beliefs and actually people that can, fill in when you don't know something. That's beautiful. I love that. What is, when you see something in someone, as a leader, all right, this person's got to go?
I would say, I would start by saying like rare is the opportunity, at least in my life, that it's gotten to that point. Because if it has gotten to that point, then I have failed in multiple levels for it to get there. Like the fundamental point I failed was them. How did they get into camp to begin with? Because unless they've changed, this whatever the situation you're referring to would have already existed, and so I missed that. I clearly didn't do a good job of finding out their history, and then to the present day, like how did we get here? Let's backtrack this. Like, and so if you've always hated the artist, then it would have shown through other work. So like if you're now just telling me, I can't work with this person, it's like, well, you probably have felt that way. I wasn't listening. I wasn't making myself available to see the signs.
Wow.
And so again, that's that is why I really enjoy being on the floor and being at the gig, is so I can be a tour manager that knows what the heck's going on. So I don't ever want to be surprised. And if we are surprised, that's on me. Like I shouldn't have. I have clearly failed if we've gotten to that point and we're surprised that our lighting designer's pissed off.
Wow.
Like that's, I mean, I genuinely mean that. And my dad's a small business owner. I was raised, like my dad swept the floors. Like, and so I was raised in that environment. Again, I am not saying that is how I've conducted myself my entire career, but that's where I'm at now. And so if we're to a point where somebody needs to be replaced, it's not going to do any good at that moment in time to start, well, how did we get here? But that is definitely come Monday morning after the game is over, we need to sit down and figure out how do we get to this point.
Yeah.
And so if someone's unhappy or if they're not cutting it in their role, outside of them doing something illegal or immoral, like grossly immoral,
right.
Then, I think case by case basis, but I'm all about like, how can I help you? Like as a human, like what, if I have a good example. I have an uncle who ran a corporation, a very large corporation, and he had a guy that was always, I'm going to botch this story, but just to keep it simple, he was always, had this guy who was always showing up late and falling asleep. And this was in a huge warehouse. And so they wanted to fire him. And so they came to my uncle, who's the CEO, and said, we want to fire this guy. He's like, why do you want to fire this guy? He's a minimum wage guy. And you're getting minimum wage work. And they're like, well, he's always asleep. Why he's always asleep? I don't know. He's just lazy. Bring him in. So it brings him in. And the guy goes in and my uncle's like, why are you always asleep? Well, come to find out, this guy was a pursuing artist, painter. And he was taking night classes. And so he was not sleeping when he could have been. He's from Brazil. He was on a visa. And so he was terrified if he lost his job, he'd have to go back to Brazil. So my uncle said, well, are you any good? And he's like, yeah. He's like, well, I think so. Come over to my house and paint a portrait of my family. Comes over, paints a portrait of my cousins and my aunt and him.
Wow.
And it's phenomenal. So every year he would have him paint a new portrait. Fast forward, that guy has his own wing of the Modern Art Museum in Rio, in Brazil.
Whoa.
And he only fundamentally could do it because my uncle was paying him thousands of dollars for these. Yeah. And so I learned from that's an example of studying other leaders and learning what they do. And I learned from him, if someone's falling asleep on the job, chances are they're not a bad person. There's probably a good reason, And so his job was to help him as an individual find his success in a different avenue. And so if we've got a lighting designer who's unhappy, I would rather them in 10 years' time be able to call me up and say, thank you so much for, talking to me that day, because now I'm a chef in the south of France living my best life.
Wow.
That to me is way beyond the getting upset because the guy doesn't want to go load in,
That is an incredible story. That shifts a lot of perspective. I
100%.
mean, especially with this job where it is little sleep, you are in close quarters, people can get under your skin, but also at the same time, your life is still happening to you, even when you're on the road. It could feel like life just stops, but your life is still happening. And I mean, I remember, people can blow a fuse, and it's because something's going on in their family, instead of just getting rid of them right away, of learning, okay, how can we support you through this? Because we are a team. And wow, that is some servant leadership right there.
Well, I will tell you, those individuals turn out oftentimes to be your best ally in the end, because they know, they're like, I might disagree with that guy on 25 things that he'll say today, but I know that guy's got my back, as a human, And so because of that, then we're unbeatable. No one's going to beat our team because we care about each other at the core level,
Oof. Ooh. That's beautiful. I'm going to think about that for a while. All right, that just answers a whole lot of my questions. So the last question about hiring, just because, gigs, this is really, people are trying to get in this industry. I love that you said, if it gets to a point where we need to actually fire someone, it's on me from the very beginning. I think a lot of people struggle with that first hire. They're going to call as many people as they can to get enough recommendations, hear about their work. How do you totally suss someone out? Because people can say they did a whole lot of shit when they might have not, or whatever it is. How do you find and know that person's going to be good?
Well, I laugh at my younger self because I realize how full of crap I was.
Same.
Because you realize that it's such a small business, and it's, especially now 25 years in, I can call 90% of the people that are, it's like, dude, you don't have to sit here and BS me. I can make 8 phone calls. Or you just go on Facebook. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The world is so small now that rare is the person that comes across, whose resume I get that they've got it done to, or I don't know someone on, right? So you just call the person you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's some gut and some instinct, to a degree. But again, going back to kind of what we were talking about earlier, when I was working with Kane, for example, to me, it was very important as his tour manager to have kids, to have people backstage that look a little bit more like his kids than just us. You know, his kids, you know, look like their father. And so like or with Jennifer Nettles, like we wanted women, like she's a woman, like it would be nice to have some other like-minded humans here, you know? So you've got to take a full gamut of inventory of you know, who you have on your team, and maybe, you know, certainly you want the best person to get it. And I think the question is like, we'll determine what best is, you know?
Yes.
At the end of the day, we're not saving souls out here. This isn't rocket surgery.
It's about the fit. It's about the culture fit. Yeah. No, that's huge. Can I ask you if you remember one of the biggest mistakes you ever made, and on the road, at home, whatever it was, where you just, when you think about it, you're like, oh God, I can't believe I did that. And kind of how you overcame that.
Well, I'm hesitant. So I can be honest and give you the actual physical worst mistake I made, or I could do the deep philosophical of like, well, I
what is a mistake, really?
Yes. They're all.
Are there any
regrets?
No, yeah.
I will tell you, with OneRepublic in I don't remember, maybe 2010, probably 2010. We were somewhere in Africa or Asia or something, and the guys were like, "Hey, let's go see the Taj Mahal. Like, we're on the same side of the world. Can we go see the Taj Mahal?" It's like, all right, yeah. So I set up flights from. It was just the boys and security and I. We went like, I don't remember where we came from, but we flew to New Delhi, landed New Delhi, and I did all the work. Like I set it all up. I got a helicopter. I had 2 helicopters to take us from the airport to the Taj. I had a dinner, a chef, local Michelin chef, he was gonna make us dinner at the Taj, and because we only had a day, and then we'd get back in the helicopter, and then I had a red eye. It was all Emirates, you know, first class, and then we'd fly to London to meet up with the tour. Well, I didn't take visas into consideration. And so we get there and we go up, and they immediately, like security or whatever it is, like at the airport, we're immediately like, you got to go in that room, like, and leave your phones here because you're trying to enter the country undocumented. And they Googled the boys and saw they were a band, so they figured we were just doing something and we weren't being honest. And obviously the guys were less than thrilled, you could say that. And and so we had to go after 6 hours. And I'm trying to call my travel agent, and I'm not supposed to be on the phone.
Oh my gosh.
Ended up getting flights, and we had to fly back to London, fly to London early. Yeah.
Because you had a show to play.
And then what made it even better was we went to London, and we went to Nobu in Mayfair there, and we all got food poisoning, like the worst food poisoning I've ever had in my life. And it was like the gift that kept giving, like the worst trip ever. So physically speaking, that would be my biggest failure. That was the day I learned that you check for visas no matter what you're coming for or where you're going.
That's a hard, I mean, I feel like everyone's got to learn that the hard way. I mean, how do you learn that? If you're going on a world tour, or it's your first TM gig on a world tour of some kind, who teaches you all the things you need to know for that?
Well, if you're smart, you surround yourself with mentors and you listen and you ask questions, which I do have good mentors. I can't remember I don't remember why it didn't cross. Cause I mean, especially at that time I certainly had done visas. It slipped my mind, and it was such a simple visa to get. Like, it's a visitor's visa, but it just slipped my mind. I even went and got the shots. In fact, I went to Vanderbilt because you have to get like 11, 13 shots. You have to get this like litany of shots, you know, dengue fever and yellow. So, I mean, we all did that. We all did our medical shot. I just really dropped the ball when it came to, you need the key to unlock the door, dude.
You had all the helicopters and everything planned.
Yep.
Wow. That's the hard way. That's learning the hard way. So then the next time you went overseas, every visa for every country you're going in. And did you have to prepare all that for the crew too?
Yes, but that's the thing. Like we'd already done a couple world tours. Like, oh man.
Did it get worse post-COVID going overseas to play shows?
I mean, immediately after, yes, just because of the COVID part. But no, I mean, I wouldn't. I guess to answer your question, technically, probably yes, but I would say due to the state of the affairs of the world right now, not necessarily due to COVID.
Okay, got it.
The fact that, like, you know, we're on the brink of
couple little wars going on.
Yeah. That makes it less than ideal.
That's wild. Do you guys have a world tour happening after North America? Will you be heading over?
I mean, presumably, like at some point, yeah. There's nothing officially on the books right now.
Okay, that's very exciting.
When you're doing the music he's doing, clearly he's appealing to more people than just those in North America. So one would think. For
sure. Wow, that's a hard lesson. Jeez Louise. I want to get into, you shared with me before this, and thank you for your vulnerability in this, but you've been sober for now almost 10 years come November.
Yep.
Can you share with me just that journey?
100%. Yeah. I'm a 7 on the Enneagram scale.
I could tell immediately.
I'm a middle child. There's 7 kids in my family.
Wow.
And I need attention desperately, and I will go get it if no one will give it to me. So what a great job to give me as the guy that can have the credit card and the booze, because I am Mr. Good Time. So yeah, for years, I mean, the bands I would work with and the artists, I was hell-bent on making sure they understood this is rock and roll and we are going to live it up. And I mean, had a wonderful, great time. And the older I got, the more expensive the booze got. And, it went from whatever to Silver Oak to Pappy Van Winkle and all that stuff. And I realized early in 2014, I went to get a drink. I was outside. We'd been going for like a year or something, and I had just gotten home. My wife was at work. I was outside at 9 a.m. I went in to get some whiskey from my bar, and I ran out. And I went down to open a new whiskey, and I remember thinking, like, dog, what are you doing? Like, and I was smoking a pipe at the time. I mean, I weighed 50 pounds more than I weigh now. I had a big beard, and I was like, this isn't cool, dude. It's 9 a.m. And then my mind was like, yeah, but your body's in wherever it is, I don't know, Helsinki or something right now, so you're fine. And that was kind of the first, like, man, you really should think about this. And gave it a few months and went the other direction and just went on a massive bender. And we were in Europe in 2014 at the third quarter, and I decided this is it. I'm gonna get sober now.
Wow.
And so we had the end of tour, OneRepublic's end of tour party was at the W in Barcelona. There's like a rooftop that they have. And so I rented it out because we had 100 and some odd folks. And I remember getting a bicycle, this hotel we stayed at in Barcelona often. I got a bike and I rode over to the hotel like 4 PM, gave the guy a credit card. And I was like, dude, you know, when I'm done, I'm not gonna know what planet I'm on. And he laughed. I was like, no, I'm serious. Cause I knew this is it. And so I told my security guys, the only guy I told, I said, your boy's not going to be good when we're done. And I mean, and so I went hard. I went real hard. And Ryan came up to me. I don't remember much, but I remember he looked me in the face. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, I got a plan. He's like, I hope so. Cause like you're going to die if you keep this up. And yeah, I mean, so I woke up 20 something hours later, covered in stuff and crying and miserable and thinking I'm going to be dead.
Yeah. And
had a show in 2 hours, got to the gig. Everyone was suffering. It was the end of tour party. And it was like second to last show. Did the show, immediately got in the bed, and then woke up in Portugal, in Lisbon for our last date. And I have that, that's where we took our tour photo, and it's on my desk, Zito and a few of and it's funny because I look back and it's like, but a lot of us on that tour are completely different people now.
Wow.
And that was like day one for me, but secretly I was dying, like physically, like just dying. And for me, I needed to do that to like know that like we're done. Like I emptied the bucket. There's no more drinking to be had because I drank it all. And I told the boys, like I said, I'm done. And they laugh. Of course, it's like they laugh, like, oh, you of all people, you'll be back. It's like, nope, I'm not drinking ever again. Wow. And I've always fluctuated through either I'm super healthy or terribly unhealthy. So it was clearly in a terrible unhealthy phase. So I switched back into running and was like, I'm going to run. I'm just going to start running again. And that's where I replaced it. And I will say, and I mentioned, but my mom died in 18. Anybody at 45 lives some life. The most difficult challenge I have ever endured in my life was getting sober on tour. Hands down, like more than running 50 miles, getting sober on tour with your friends who know you as being, even if you're not wild, it's just, they knew I was a drinker and it's the music business. There's alcohol everywhere.
Free, unlimited. Yes. It's not real life.
Correct.
Yeah. Can you talk about that? How when you're on the road, especially if you're doing pop, if you're gone for 9, 8, a whole year at a time, what what is that like where you just don't feel like any rules apply to you or any of that?
You know, in the last 3 or 4 years, we've seen a lot of news and the word privilege being said. And that's definitely, like, let's be real. That's a Western privilege. And especially as, you know, I'm a blonde hair, blue eyed dude.
Yeah.
There's a lot of privilege that comes with that. And I look at that now, and that's why I'll never again ever live like that, because I realize the amount of responsibility that comes with that privilege of being able to turn around and unlock doors for people that can't be there doing what you're doing. And so what an insult to the opportunity to squander it away with selfish endeavors when I can exhaust myself in making sure people can get in, not only get into the room, but even excel any opportunity I ever had. You know, that's how I view that. So I don't, there's nothing about that life that I miss at all. I look at it as being a complete distraction and a trap. And I see, you know, I have so many friends that are in that vortex, and I would never say a word unless they ask me, which at that point, I'm all hands on deck.
Yeah.
Because I think you got to figure out your own journey yourself, you know?
But the way you live your life is also a testament. It's also kind of your advice that you can be giving someone, you know, before they even come. They're just seeing the way that you live your life on tour, as a leader, as a person in, you know, in a great position. You're building a team, but then also who you are with your family. Did that change your family life a lot?
So this is how cool this is. We were not parents. I did this all on my own. And so, yeah, November 17th, 2014, April 2015, so 5 months later, I get home from a show and my wife didn't look well. And I jokingly was like, "Are you pregnant?" And she was like, "Yes." And I'm like, "What?"
Oh my gosh.
And so I knew immediately, like, for me, the immediate take was, this is my reward. Like, immediately was like, wow. I was not ready, because we weren't trying to have kids. We weren't talking about kids. And it was like, I just kind of thought we might never have kids. And so my son, for me and how I operate is I have to have authentic, pure motivation. I can't trick myself. I can't be tricked. It has to be something real. And so for me, if we had gotten pregnant and then I tried to be sober, that for me wouldn't work, because my son would always be the reason I was trying to be sober. And I just don't feel that's a healthy, that's unfair to put on him. This is the opposite. Whereas, like, I did that all on my own. Now I've got a son. And so now I can live my life knowing that he's here and I can help him be the best he is.
Wow.
You know what I mean? As opposed to, I'd love to have a drink, but I can't because I'm a dad now.
Yeah. It was your decision first.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And you got to that on your own. You closed a door, which opened up all 100%. These new doors. Do you think that certain artists benefit from having you have a mentality like that, or in the job? Yeah.
I mean, so with Lady A, Charles is sober and he's very vocal about it. So I'm not telling any of his secrets here.
Yeah.
And so I was on the bus with him, and it was great because, you know, like, he was just starting his journey. I'm into mine. But at the same time, like, again, like, everybody's got to find their own journey, and not everybody, I mean, everybody's at different levels and different phases and different experiences. And so for some people, they don't want to talk about it, or they just only want to talk about that. Like with Sum 41, Derek, when I was with him, I was not drinking at the time because they were still enjoying the road a lot. And shortly after, he got sober. And so it was really cool to see, like, he and I kind of got sober around the same time. It's cool to see, like, he's now a happy, functioning husband and father. And, wow. And it's cool to see, you know. And then there's the underbelly when I hear about a colleague that's didn't make it, you know, due to addiction. And it's just a bummer, because it's like, man, we can do better as a tribe, you know.
Do you see a shift in our industry? I mean, I think we're seeing it in our world, a shift to way more sober curious.
Yeah,
even
100%.
though, you know, it's like shrooms are becoming the new weed, weed's becoming the new alcohol, alcohol's the new cigarette, basically, kind of. But do you see a shift in our industry with the jobs being harder, with all the production being way bigger than it ever has? Do you see, like, a need for sobriety on the road? I
mean, yes, I think, and you actually touched on why for me, what I think one of the reasons is, I think that our forefathers in this business were all coked out of their mind, and that they did unfathomable achievements. It's the steroid era. Like, no one can accomplish what they were doing because they were cheating. And so the laws have caught up, and so now we can't cheat.
Yes.
And so, if you're name top 30 Billboard tours out there, right? Polestar tours out there. The people in positions of leadership are not alcoholic. Oh, they might be alcoholics, but they're not drunk. There's too much work to do. Like no one's pounding the booze like they used to. Certainly there's Roadie Friday, people are having fun. But like in general, if you're a rigger, you're not slamming a half bottle of tequila to get 3 hours of sleep and go chalk at 5 a.m. Exactly. And so I feel like for me, the people that are really the movers and shakers that are doing things with their life, they know, like this is a business. This is not rock and roll camp. This, and I'm not in the band. None of us are in the band. We are hired people to perform jobs. And so you get outside of Nashville especially, and that doesn't fly. Real quick, it doesn't fly. There's real work to be done.
Dang. I want to get into rapid fire.
Okay.
Just the first thing that comes to mind for you. All right, you ready? Here we go.
Hit me.
First concert.
Man, I should know this.
Yeah, you should know this.
I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
You know what? I'm going to say there's this Christian singer named Carmen.
Okay.
And I think Carmen was probably my first concert. And that's, honest to God, I think that's the first time I've answered that question.
Wow. Okay, then what was the first show you worked?
Probably Carmen. The Clark, no. It was a band called Bleach.
Bleach.
Yes, they were called Bleach, late or 2000 maybe.
Yeah. Wow. Best after show food.
Oh, sushi.
Ooh. Yeah. Ooh, that's a little risky though.
Not at Nobu.
Okay. Oh, except for that one time. Okay, noted. Our coffee. I was about to ask. Coffee, tea, Monster, Red Bull, Celsius.
Coffee. All day, every day. Black.
Okay, black. That doesn't look.
I know.
Favorite venue to work.
Oh goodness. Oh my goodness. Probably. You
can give me top 3.
I mean, first off, the one up in was that New Hampshire or Guilford? Gosh. Guilford's pretty for North America. Guilford's pretty special. Obviously, Red Rocks has its own sentiment. And then, like globally speaking, I mean, Sydney, like the Opera House is pretty cool. Like, yeah, there's a lot of cool venues around the world.
Biggest pet peeve on the road? Just gets under your skin.
Being late.
Huge. Do you have a favorite touring tradition?
Yes. As the tour manager, I like to, on day one of the kickoff of the tour, set out tables in the hallway and they're not, because of Master Tour and other companies now, they're not as hot as they used to be, but I do the tour book.
Oh, yeah.
I do your laundry bag, your luggage tags, your credential, and then any other swag or water bottle, whatever it is. I love to lay all that out with everybody's name. So it's like they feel like first day camp. Oh my God. Like
it's a camp.
Yeah.
It's real camp. I love that. Dream project you'd love to work on. Or dream show, dream venue, I don't know. Might be it.
I would probably like to do something. I have done stuff at the Olympics, and I would like to probably, if I wasn't doing music, I'd want to do something like the Olympics.
Dang. Get your ass to Paris next week.
I know.
2 more. 1, best advice for managing life on the road.
If you've got a significant other or friends, be honest always. At the same time, be wise. And if you've on night 3 of eating a 5-star meal and your wife's at home with the kids, maybe you don't have to go into full details and embellishment of how great life is at the moment. Be wise.
Yep.
And keep your word, man. Like if you say you're going to do something, do it.
And lastly, what makes it all worth it?
Oh gosh, I walk every single night. I haven't seen a show in years. I don't watch the shows, but I always walk the floor 1 to 3 times depending on the night, and walking outdoors, walking the floor, and seeing the people running to GA with excitement, and then in the middle of the headliner set, walking around and just seeing like floor to ceiling people like being able to escape. And especially if it's, man, the kids, oh my God, like you give me a kid, or even worse, give me a sick kid. And it just makes it all worth it. Cause it's like, I can only imagine what the family's going through. And I know how much we as a society hang on our celebrities for like helping us with our problems. So to see that moment in those faces, for me, that's like, it's worth it. In fact, during Bonnaroo, when Post was on stage, I walked out as much as I could because it's kind of hard to get out there, and just seeing the joy on people's faces, it was like, this is why we're working 20 hours today in the heat. Like,
they're transported.
Yes.
To a different. Yeah, music's a drug.
It is. And when you've got a guy like Post who's going to be your guy up there, it makes it so much fun because it's like, we know he's going to give his, so like it's easy to go give ours,
Oh, Mark Oglesby, thank you for being on the podcast. We have so much even more to get to, so we'll get you back on here, but thank you for being here.
Having me. Congratulations to you, man. You are killing it.
Hey, we got a lot of work to do, but you're the best. Thank you.
All right.